What's up, everybody? Here's the bling coming at you one more time with an Industry Insiders Presents. We got with us today Keratherapy and a special guest, Mike Bell. Mike Bell is the Vice President and the General Manager of Keratherapy. He's with us today to talk. Hey, Mike, what's going on?
Eddie, how you doing?
Good, good. So what is... Tell our audience a little bit about Keratherapy and introduce yourself too, if you don't mind. I'm familiar with you, obviously, but not everybody. Everybody's so surprised how I know so many people, right? So,
Yes.
so we have to explain why I know so many people and who you are.
Sure. No problem. Good to be here. Thanks. I'm looking forward to this. I've been in the beauty business going on 35 years now. Spent probably about half my career on the color side with Goldwell and Schwarzkopf, and then worked for a couple of other brands. And about 10 years ago, I came to work for this company. The actual company name is Diora Professionnel. And then underneath Diora, we have our main brand, Keratherapy. We have a secondary brand, Truplex. So I've been in the business a long time, started as a distributor, worked for a couple of manufacturers. I've always had I've taken a different approach to the sales aspect of this industry. And what I mean by that is when I have the opportunity to get in front of a group of stylists, I'm very seldom selling them my products. And I know that sounds really strange for a company whose livelihood comes from selling product, but I have always been a believer that the more I can help salons and stylists become more successful at what they do, the more valuable I will become as an asset. And by extension, the more valuable my brands will become to the stylists. And so everything that we do and everything that we teach, even before COVID, has always been designed to help salons and stylists increase their profit to services, and re-engaging in everything that is necessary for a business to survive. And everything that I talk about and everything that I teach and everything we try and put in print revolves around one simple premise. And that is that most people who are licensed cosmetologists, not just in this country and the rest of the world, most of them are not doing hair as a hobby. This is a business. They feed their kids with this money. They make their mortgage payments, their rent payments, their car payments, everything that they do, their livelihood comes from this business. And the biggest frustration that I found in literally 35 years is that it's very difficult for most stylists to make good business decisions. And part of it is because of the education system in this country. We all know that there's better opportunities to get better educated. You're a perfect example. You've gone through a lot of curriculums and worked with a lot of icons in your career, but you've had to go out and do that. It wasn't like laid out in front of you. The average stylist doesn't have that opportunity. And so they go to school, they get a license, they get out of school, and they're behind a chair and it's like, poof, you're a hairdresser, go make money. And they really don't teach them how. And so they kind of learn by doing. But when you look back at the past year and you look at what our industry has gone through, we used to say there were two industries that were recession-proof, bars and beauty. Mm-hmm. And back when the housing bubble exploded, 10 years ago, the beauty industry really, really got hit, but nothing like this past year. And so now we're hopefully coming out of this, but still you've got stylists who are running on 2 cylinders with an 8-cylinder engine. They can't see the same number of clients. Many of their clients can't even come back because they're not working yet, or they're on unemployment and they can't afford the services. So the ability for salons and stylists to generate a livelihood has been so dramatically impacted in the past year that we are focusing so much more on trying to give them help and ideas on how to kind of turn that around and how to make up their lost revenue for the past year.
Well, that actually is a very great point. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. It's actually, we can even start talking about it now because one of the things that I loved about Keratherapy is that they have the treatments. They have a multitude of treatments. They also have a full support of retail line alongside with them too. And the retail line, doesn't just look sexy as hell. It's freaking awesome. It works too. But the packaging looks, I mean, I can even looking at the packaging behind you, it just looks amazing. It looks sharp on a shelf, right? Everybody loves the products just because of they're beautiful products. It's one of the things that I want to talk about. I want to say about the treatment separate and the retail separate. Yeah, the spring is coming up. We're gearing up for that smoothing season as everybody gets ready for, but we're still in the dead of winter right now, right? Yeah. And that's one of the things that that's my soapbox that I harp on all the time. Yeah. Keratin treatments, keratin smoothing is not just for the summer frizz. You need it for moisture, for the keratin infusion, for the rebuilding, restructuring, reinforcing of that cuticle. Can you speak to that a little bit? Because everybody's sick and tired of listening to me talk about it all the time. I need another voice to drive it home.
You're spot on. I mean, I've been on a soapbox about that for years because part of the challenge is the way this category was introduced to the industry was very, very singular and myopic. It was all curly to straight, and they were called keratin straightening systems or Brazilian straightening systems, and it was billed as a second coming to Japanese straightening. And so, it came at a time, back again when this whole the industry was really hurt by the housing bubble, where people really needed to make money. And so during this time, one could argue that the only two things that kept a lot of salons in business was keratin treatments and hair extensions. And so because these were really, really big ticket items. And so when this first came out, it was like, okay, all of you people who used to do Japanese straightening and charge $300, $400, $500 and literally change lives with these services, there was a time when that was big. It was about maybe a blink of an eye. It was 2 years. And they were beautiful. They were transformative, and the clients' lives were changed, and the stylists' lives were changed financially. And so what happened was as these kept getting reapplied, and it's physically impossible to not have overlap on a line of demarcation when you're doing a molecular changing texture change, like a perm or a straightener. And so with repeated applications, they'd have breakage, and all of a sudden these treatments were gone. And so when this category came out, it was like, remember all that money you used to make from those straightening services? Guess what? It's back. And not only is it back, it's better because it's not breaking bonds. It's not physically transforming the molecular bonds of the hair. You cannot break the hair. You're going to make all this money again. You're going to change lives again. And so all the marketing in the beginning, verbally and image-wise, was always curly to straight. And so from the very beginning, the main features to this, the number one feature really was curl reduction, but in tying with curl reduction was the frizz control and the humidity resistance. And by definition, those two things in particular really are only present, or more commonly present, in warm weather situations, hot, humid weather, aka the spring and the summer. And still to this day, we consider spring and summer the peak smoothing season, right, in the business. And so from the very beginning, we started to try and change the definition of smoothing. And so, whenever we start talking about our treatments, or we start talking about this generic category that everybody likes to put, specific products in, we started changing the definition of this category about 8 years ago. And we made a very distinct difference between the words straightening and smoothing. Right. And the reason was, again, going back to this whole business foundational standpoint, if you're going to offer a straightening treatment, you're automatically limited in the number of people that you can market that to. Because first of all, it has to be a curly client, right? Because you're not going to take somebody straight to straight. Straight to straight. Second of all, right? So right off the bat, because of the way it was marketed, everybody, when you watch clients coming in through your door, the only ones you'd think about a keratin treatment would be when somebody walks in with hair out to here, totally unruly, all messed up, right? And then you'd pitch this wonderful transformative service that can give you 3 months or longer of incredibly manageable, silky, soft, shiny, straight hair. The problem is first of all, again, it was limiting, right? Because it was not only was it only curly clients, it was only curly clients who didn't want their curls anymore. And it was only curly clients who were willing to sit in a chair for 2 hours. And it was only curly clients who had a lot of money, because those treatments back then were as much as $600 in some markets when they first came out. So right off the bat, it was very limited. we're a company that makes 7 different professional smoothing treatment formulas, both traditional and formaldehyde free. And so for us as a brand, we had to find a justifiable reason to have those formulas and to market them in a way that appealed to a much wider group of people. And so when we started looking at the way people looked at this industry, that those 2 words, smoothing and straightening, we realized very, very quickly that straightening was a problem. Because if you remove the word straight and you talk about everything else that these treatments do, the frizz control, the humidity resistance, the protection from the environment, temperature extremes in the winter. I mean, you mentioned winter, and it took me a while to get here. When winter has its own set of problems, right, with hair, especially in the climates that you and I live in, Chicago and Cleveland and the north in the winter. So although you don't have humidity issues and you don't have frizz issues from the heat and humidity, you have frizz issues because your hair is dry. There's a moisture problem in the air. The air is very, very dry. The bigger problem is you have multiple temperature extremes every single day that you're exposing hair to. So, you sleep in a nice cozy bed, you wake up in the morning, you have your coffee, you take your shower, you get dressed, you go outside into your car, scrape the snow off your car. So you've gone from this nice warm environment, and assuming you're not wearing a hat, which has its own problem if it's a wool hat, right? You're going outside into this cold, frigid hair, and then you're going to go in your car and it heats up again. And then you get out of your car, you go to work. And in between your car and your work, it's cold again. You go to work, it's hot again. And so you get the idea. And when you expose any organic or physical material to repeated extremes of temperature, hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, that actually starts to degrade the integrity of that substance or that structure. And so the hair gets weaker. It gets further robbed of moisture because with these temperature extremes, you're also frequently opening and closing the cuticle if you haven't used something to really, really close it. And so every time you do this, your hair arguably goes through more stress in the winter than it does in the summer.
This is what I'm harping about.
And there's a secondary effect to that on your hair color, on all of your services, the manageability, the frizz control, shine, all of those things come into play. So 100% wintertime, a lot of people take their foot off the gas as they get into late fall and they start thinking about the holidays. And if you went to a client who was a regular smoothing customer, or even one who was not, and said, hey, how does your hair hold up during the winter? Right? What happens in the months of November, December, January, and February to your hair? Clients are going to identify the problems that they experience. And for the most part, they don't realize that if they got a smoothing treatment in November, that would protect their hair dramatically so over the course of the winter, so that when they come out the other side, their hair is in much better shape to start the warmer winter months before we get into, again, what we call the peak smoothing season. So 100%, it is a year-round service. It needs to be marketed year-round, but that usually is where the ball drops, is there's not a lot of marketing going on, and there's not a lot of promoting going on the part of salons and stylists, generally speaking, with these services. And that's another thing that I think they need to focus on.
Well, that's actually a great point about the marketing and not doing it. I'll tell you this way, and this is something that I've seen, and I want to hear what your thought is on this as well too. With the limitations of how we are able to book right now, we have personally seen a huge uptick in higher ticket services. I am beyond busy with the amount of classes that I am teaching on Keratherapy and on extension services, alongside hair color. How does it work with hair color? How does it combine with hair color? How does it work with styling and stuff like that? What we are seeing is most people used to bank on the fact that they can bang out 10, 15, 20 haircuts a day and make their daily numbers that they wanted to make, right? Unfortunately, now with scheduling limitations, you can't see that many people in a day. So what we are seeing is people are doing more treatment services. Coincidentally, it's the winter time too, which is awesome because that's exactly what we've been talking about. But out of necessity for higher ticket, higher profit margins, they're doing these treatments now where they weren't used to doing them or didn't think about necessarily doing them from before, right? And with the offering from Keratherapy, there are so many, like you mentioned, you got 7 different formulas.
Right.
You got something for everybody. It's
Right.
not just straightening. It's the smoothing, like I said earlier, the rebuilding, the reinforcing. Color lock and smooth is a huge one that you can do in between the other treatments. You could do it as a standalone treatment in itself. It's one of my personal favorites. So, but there's a lot of confusion about how to maximize the potential profit that can be made from doing these treatments. And you have a very good way of explaining that, if you don't mind.
No, not at all. You're 100% right. And so depending on the state in the United States or the province in Canada or the country in the world, because we're experiencing this throughout the world, we're in over 40 countries and everybody is in some different level of restriction, right? And so your point is incredibly valid from an operational standpoint today. You cannot, for the most part, do the same number of people today that you could do a year ago, January. And so right off the bat, your potential income is reduced dramatically. On top of that, in addition to not being able to maintain the same daily income that you did have 13, 14 months ago, you still probably, for the most part, have not made up for the loss of income last year when you were shut down. For whether it was 2 months or 4 months, or poor California, they're open, they're closed, they're open, they're closed. Yeah, you can do hair outside, but you can't do color. You can only do cuts. I mean, it's been a nightmare for stylists. And so, to me, when we started coming out of this whole COVID thing, and I mean what I mean by that is when people were actually able to start operating again to any great degree, the thing I noticed very, very quickly was that most stylists as clients, it's like the floodgates open, right? And every client was contacting their stylist saying, I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this. And one of the great things about this business, which is also one of its Achilles heels, I believe, is stylists tend to traditionally care more about their clients than they do themselves. And so that, it's a very empathetic industry, right? It's one of the things that kept me into this business so long is our customer base, which is the professional hairstylist, is unparalleled in their compassion for others, in my opinion. And so what's happened is people would call and say, I say, hey man, I need a haircut. When's your first available time? And they'd look at their book and they'd give me their first available time. And the problem is, to your point, it's a whole different world, right? And so you cannot do what you did 14 months ago because the environment within which you are working is completely different. And your number one objective as a stylist or a salon should be to two things. Number one is to recoup your average daily revenue that you experienced pre-COVID. And your secondary objective should be to recoup the lost revenue from all the times you were shut down last year. Now, moving forward, not only is that difficult because of the fact that you can't see as many people. If you're a stylist used to doing 2 or 3 people at a time, you can't do that anymore. You can't have anybody on deck. You can't be, while somebody's processing, you can't be doing another client. So your ability to generate the same level of income on a daily basis is gone until things get totally back to normal. So right out of the gate, you're starting behind the 8 ball because you can't even get back to your daily production volume that you had 14 months ago. So what we tried to coach stylists and salons to do when they first started getting back into business is to first prioritize your high profit services so that you are basically almost accomplishing both of those two objectives. If you do 3 smoothing treatments in a day versus doing 5 colors or 6 colors, depending on your pricing, you're probably going to make more profit on the smoothing treatments than you did on the color services. But if you were always used to only doing 1 or 2 treatments a month before COVID, you're probably only at most going to do 1 or 2 treatments a month after COVID or in today's environment, unless you change the way you look at the category and market the category and schedule appointments. And so, we firmly believe that you have to focus on high profit treatments. The challenge is, again, because there's a very myopic view by many about the treatment side of things that we offer. Many of our competitors only have one or two formulas. And so it's kind of like a one size fits all thing.
Right.
And yeah, if you put it in the right hands, Eddie, you could take any treatment out there in the world and you could probably make it do what all of our 7 treatments do just by changing the way you do things. But that's not everybody. And so for us, we've taught a very inclusive way to market this category to literally every client that sits in the chair, curly, straight, or anywhere in between. And it starts with removing the word straight from your vocabulary, not just as you think about this category, but as you view your potential clients and as you talk to your clients and as you market these services into your client, whatever way you do that. And so one of the things that we've developed that has been a very valuable piece is something we call the market potential sheet. And this market potential sheet is kind of like a blueprint. It's a sales and marketing blueprint that is going to help you understand why today's smoothing treatment is different than the smoothing treatment of 10 years ago. And it is completely different. And once you accept the fact that the benefits of smoothing as we define it today, where we've taken the whole straightening or curl reduction aspect and taken it from a primary benefit, and at best it's a secondary and maybe even a tertiary benefit, and you focus on all the other things these treatments do: eliminate frizz, repel humidity, protect it in the cold weather, help it keep moisture balance, speed up blow dry, speed up ironing, longer lasting color, stronger, healthier hair, better manageability. Those are all the things that a smoothing treatment should do. Curl reduction can be achieved based on the formula that you choose, and in many cases, the way you process or apply the treatment. And so now, rather than this being a very exclusive treatment for a specific kind of client, with a specific kind of hair, with a specific kind of desired result, we actually teach up to 5 in-salon services ranging from a $200-300 traditional smoothing treatment down to a keratin smoothing blowout that you would charge a premium for over a normal blowout, and everywhere in between. So we teach stylists how to market new services that will provide all of those smoothing benefits I described to every client, regardless of their texture to begin with, their desired texture that they walk out of a salon with, their budget, the amount of time they can spend in the salon. And even if they don't want to have an in-salon treatment, we've crafted this whole brand and the interaction between the treatments and the home care products behind me so that you can have smoothing benefits for days, weeks, or months. You can get it for days just using the keratin-infused home care range of products. You can get it for weeks or months using one of the 7 professional treatments that we offer and marketing it the way we teach in the market potential sheet. And so everything in the market potential sheet, anybody that ever gets their hands on this thing, and by the way, they can email us at info@keratherapy.com or education@keratherapy.com, and they can get this, they get application guides, what have you. But the whole key to this thing is not looking over at the treatments. It's step 1. If you don't get past step 1, and change the way you look at this category, and you differentiate between the word straightening and smoothing, you will never maximize your revenue in this category. And I would argue that from a potential upside, if you take a mature stylist or salon who has a good, mature book of business, and they know what percentage of those people are already color customers, which is going to be the majority, your potential for new color business is very limited. Is because you're probably putting color on almost everybody that walks in the salon, right? Your potential in this category, even after 10 years, is still almost unlimited. Because if you get a room full of people who are active in this category, and you start by asking, hey, how many treatments a week do you do? The most common answer I get when I ask that question is, well, it's easier to tell you how many I do in a month. And so still to this day, and it's a bigger problem internationally, because internationally, they still call these straightening treatments. So it's a real uphill battle for us. But the good news about in this country, in the United States and in Canada, when we started changing this conversation about 7 or 8 years ago, it took about a year. But after about a year, all of our competitors began doing the same thing. And it's a good thing for the industry. I mean, yeah, I wish we owned it ourselves, but it's a good thing for the stylists and salons, because we're all consistently telling people, look, this is not just a curly to straight category. This is not a call to straightening system. It doesn't break any molecular bonds if it's a true smoothing treatment. So the result should always be temporary, right? And so there's a lot of things people still need to learn about this category to learn how to turn it into money. And our argument now is that coming out of COVID, where we're getting closer to, whenever herd immunity is going to happen and whenever more people are going to get vaccinated and they start lifting the lockdowns, they need to be ready. And I think when you look at the time that we're in now, even though it's still winter and we're going to get some more snow and some more cold, the warm weather months are right around the corner. And I talked about marketing before. And so, even if salons are doing, what we teach in the market potential sheet, many of them are not marketing it to their customer base. And so when we start asking salons and stylists, how many of you actually do marketing, regular ongoing marketing to your clients? Most do not. So some people think it's hard, it's difficult, it's complicated, and it can be. You can pay money for it. You can do ads on Facebook and social media. You can pay for mailing lists. But the very simplest start would be to collect email addresses from your clients, and every week or every month or every 2 months or every quarter or every holiday or leading into every season, you start marketing specific things to your entire group of clients to start booking in advance. And so now we're teaching everybody, start booking your smoothing treatments now. People have been cooped up, the ones that still can afford it, the ones that still have jobs, the ones that still are going to come to you in your salon, they're going to be seeking these services. And the challenge also now is it's even more hyper-competitive, because what's happened in the past year and a half is a lot of enterprising product companies that are more direct to consumer have introduced a lot more home smoothing systems. And so if there's a salon that's not marketing smoothing treatments, it's almost like a salon that doesn't retail. I'll never understand it.
Here's an idea I'll share with you.
Go ahead.
So, and that actually brings up a thing. Some people say, oh, well, how do I grow my business? How do I get started with it? Everything sounds great. I love it, but I don't know where to begin. My book is full, right? So one of the things that we changed up by us, we started introducing daily smoothing cream, which is one of the retail products. And then, for those who are not familiar, and then the daily smoothing cream, that's one of the things we started off with because it is a retail item. The moisture mask is another retail item. The clean start is another retail item. The perfect blowout, the 20-in-1. I mean, I'm basically naming the entire line, but and the bamboo Truplex is the bamboo miracle and the leave-in, from the all-in-one leave-in. So we started with those as retail items because our books, like you were saying, our books are mature. We really don't have any more room to do anything more because we're already doing everything on our clientele. So the only thing that's left is extensions and treatments, right? But we can get past step one and be mentally prepared for that. Now, step two is now you got to start doing it. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the importance of the Clean Start Clarifying Treatment Shampoo. I'd also like to talk about the retail products in general, just because that is a huge ability to be able to transition. Look, you got two options with retail. You can either transition your clients into more services that you didn't even imagine were possible, or you can leave your clients with retail and just build residual income from the retail itself, right?
Right.
What are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, you're 100% right. And it's actually they need to do it all. Again, if you're a restaurant and you're let's say you're a diner that you go into a diner in New York and you've got a 50-page menu. They literally make everything. I don't know how they do it, but they got everything, right? So if you know that every customer, let's say you're in an ethnic neighborhood that likes a specific type of food, but you don't carry one of their favorite types of food or a type of food that they eat every single week. It's a bad business decision to not offer that type of food to your clientele. And so when you start looking at salons and you start looking at stylists, even independent stylists, the suite users, the people in a salon, what have you, everybody that walks into your salon, everybody shampoos their hair on a regular basis. Most of them condition. Most of them use style and finish products. So as a business, if you know that everybody coming into your business uses a particular type of product and you don't offer it to them, you got to ask yourself, is that a good business decision? And so the thing that we've always taught is that when you look at retail, I've in 35 years, I've heard everything, and so have you. I'm not a salesperson. I'm an artist. I don't want to be selling. Oh, why should I bother when it's on the grocery store? Why should I bother when it's online? Why should I bother when it's on Ulta? The reason you should bother is simply because every single person in this world does not make a decision to buy something or not solely on price. And generally speaking, there are three levels or three categories of pricing in almost any industry that you go look at. There's good, better, best pricing. And good is going to be the lower price, not that it's a bad product, but it's a good product at a fair price. And then you've got another price level that's better, and then you've got the top level that's best. And so there's three different levels of pricing, and now probably even more after what we've gone through in the past year and a half. But my point is that yeah, the majority of people that you see in your salon may not buy from you for one reason or another. And certainly online is more convenient. And I think online is even going to grow now, right? Even further so. But when you start looking at the products that are online, there's questions about authenticity, there's shipping problems, there's delays. And so when you start looking at retail first of all, I think we have to agree that being active in retail to some degree is a good business decision. Start there. Then once you agree it's a good business decision, then you have to decide which partners you're going to select. And the partners I'm talking about are the distributor and the brand, right?
Brands, yeah.
And it starts with the distributor because that's the first thing they see. And so when they look in your market, for example, and they look at all the support and the education and the business building ideas, you guys are very well known for those things. You have a deep rooted desire to help the business because you're one of them. That's a big reason, right? A lot of this comes from Eddie, and Darren has always believed this, and so retail is something they have to compete in, and so then you have to, when you talk about picking the distributor, that's easy because you like him, you don't like him, you like what they offer, you like their education, you like their support. When you start getting to the brand, that's when you really do want to pay attention to what is online, where it's online, what is the pricing like. And for some brands like us, for example, let's take Amazon. Everybody likes to point at Amazon as the big bad business that has hurt salon retail. We also like to look at diversion, the presence of products in grocery stores. And so to us old dogs, yeah, that was the beginning of the end or the beginning of the decline in retail. But in reality, when you look at, fast forward to today's marketplace, the vast majority of people who have come into the salon industry in the past 10 to 15 years have come into the salon industry where those products have always been on their grocery store shelves. So when they're sitting in their cart with mom going through the grocery store, they've always seen those specific brands over on the grocery store. And whether they were diverted or not before is almost irrelevant. It's simply another channel of distribution for many of these mass market brands. And so, yeah, you should carry some of what we call the legacy brands, the ones that everybody can name off the top of their head. But what you really should do, if you've decided that retail is going to be part of your formula, and then you're going to start looking at a brand, you want to find one clearly that performs, that looks good on the shelf, that does what it's supposed to do, that's comprehensive enough to be able to appeal to a majority of your client base. You have to look at the reason for the brand's existence. And when you take our brand into this category, we actually position our home care collections as a separate entity and a separate entry into salons, almost like we didn't make any treatments. Because you're going to have salons out there that have their favorite treatment formula. They're never going to change. It's the market leader, or it's this one, or for whatever reason. I also use their color. I get that. Okay, so let's talk about if you're going to pick a retail brand, you want to pick a retail brand that's going to be in demand by most of your clients. And the story we built around our keratin-infused home care collections is very simple. Anything that a stylist wants to achieve in their client's hair, as in terms of a good result, a good, shiny, long-lasting hair color, a great style, a cut that's going to, conform, a condition, manageability, color retention. All those things are dependent on good, healthy hair, right? And good, healthy hair is always dependent on good protein, aka keratin levels, right?
Right.
The problem is as we start entering our teens, our biological functions begin to degrade, sometimes very rapidly. So when we enter our teens, our body is producing less of the things that keep us youthful than it was when we were, 9, 10 years old. So you're producing less keratin, you're producing less enzymes, you're producing less antioxidants, you're producing less everything. And so if you take a 15-year-old client, and if you could fast forward to when she was 50, and she's never had a chemical treatment in her life, no color, no anything, at 50 years of age, she's going to have significantly lower keratin levels than she did when she was 15. And so the stylist working on that 50-year-old client is going to have a little bit more difficulty in achieving an identical result to when that client was 15. Now, most of our clients in salons are chemical treatment clients, right? So now you start adding, in the course of that 35-year span, you start adding hundreds and sometimes thousands of chemical treatments. You add exposures to the environment, UV rays, salt, sun, chlorine. You start talking about hot tools, and especially in the last 10 years. Before 10 years ago, nobody was using 450-degree irons at home. No. Now they're using them all the time because they can buy them, right? So all of these things contribute to further degradation of the keratin levels in the hair. And so keratin deficiency is a very real thing. And it's a real thing that exists in almost every client that walks in the salon. And it's going to vary to degree based on all of those factors I talked about before. And so with this brand, again, going back to how do you choose a brand with retail? Okay, I know keratin deficiency is a real thing. I know all the people that walk into my salon shampoo their hair. I know that I don't really have a product that's devoted to keratin replenishment in my salon. So I'm going to start looking for one that really is going to start bringing keratin back into the hair. And so then you refine that down to keratin brands, right? Brands that use keratin in the name or they have keratin in the ingredient. Well, then you got to look at what they offer. Who has the most comprehensive collection of products for different types of hair or different situations to be able to redeliver this keratin back into the hair? And especially with us, we use this. It's a proprietary technology called Kerabond. And what Kerabond does is in each of these individual products, which has keratin, they also have specific amino acids and organics and botanicals and all the good stuff, right? And so what Kerabond does is it bonds the keratin with those key ingredients in each product, and it ensures that they're delivered specifically to the areas of the hair that they're needed the most. And so what we promise with a brand like this is good, thorough, even keratin replenishment throughout the hair, regardless of the texture, regardless of the age, regardless of the client. And now this was a nice, quick sales pitch on behalf of my brand. But remember, the reason this was done is we're a business. We want to make money. We want to sell products. We want to be your partner. But more importantly, there's an existing revenue stream that exists that salons are not tapping into if A, they don't participate actively in retail and promote it to their clients, and B, they don't promote retail brands that address a specific existing and realistic need amongst the general population. And so, there's a definite reason people should be looking at something like that.
I'd like to point something out too, especially because of that need. At the end of the day, and I'm with you on that one, and anybody who has heard me do a class and talk about retail as a topic, they know how I feel about it, okay? It's like making a New Year's resolution that I'm going to lose 20 pounds. And the first 2 months, I'm working out, I'm doing. And then come March, I'm like, I don't know. So to me, when people start saying about online and sales and things like that, it's an excuse to not push yourself to do it, right? Now, retail is a super important thing. One of the, in order to have a good service, you need to have a good prep. In order to complete a good service, you need to have good maintenance. The only way to do that is to use retail during pre-service, during the service, and after the service. And that's really why I wanted to make such a big to-do and a big point to it. But especially how you were just talking about too. People are out there, they're going to be buying stuff whether we sell it to them or whether they buy it somewhere else, they're going to be buying stuff. They're going to be using stuff. It is our job. Yes, we are artistic. We're this, we're that. Okay, fine. But at the end of the day, we are also consultants. We are also a business as it is. And it is our part of our job to set up our clientele for success. And the way to do that is we have to send them home with an extension of us, which is the retail. And then we also have to use that same retail for ourselves in the salon. And you made me think of something. There is one of the things one of the many things that Keratherapy has is the Clean Start shampoo treatment, the pre-treatment system.
Right.
And there's also the bamboo system, excuse me, I should say better, the Truplex system, but within the Truplex system, the bamboo, those two things, especially for right now, let me ask you this way and get your opinion on this one too. Not to get heavily political about things, but there are people out there that are nervous. There are people that are scared. They are taking additional supplements on top of what they already do nutritional wise. There are people that are taking extreme levels of zinc, of biotin, of different medications and stuff to try to, as a preventative measure from contracting any kind of illness or sickness.
I've got family members doing that as well. Yes.
And you've got family, right? I mean, we all do to a certain degree, right? And again, this isn't about, opinions and stuff. I don't care about any of that stuff.
Right.
The reason why I'm bringing this up is we are seeing a real issue behind the chair. Whatever you put in is going to come out your body. It's coming out in your hair. It's coming out in your nails, right?
Right.
There is a huge buildup on the hair due to a lot of these additional supplements and medications that people are taking. So to me, Clean Start as a pre-treatment has been huge in order to break through the cuticle.
No, 100% correct. And especially, part of the challenge, I think we can joke together, and I think we can joke with the hairdressing community that as a rule, most of them don't like to read instructions. And that's one of the great things about hairstylists,
what are
right?
Instructions?
So you give them a product and they smell it and they feel it and they touch it and they know it's a styler or it's a finished product or whatever,
and
it's
if
a shampoo, whatever.
Good, it works.
And then they go wing it, right? And then they make up their own rules for it, which is one of the beautiful things about this business. But I bring that up because, to your point, and in particular with smoothing treatment, since we're kind of getting into peak smoothing season, when you look at instructions, our Clean Start is an 8.5 pH. So it's an alkaline shampoo. It's not something you would retail, but it is something, it's not going to hurt somebody, but it's not something I would use for daily use because it's so alkaline. But its purpose is to prepare the hair and open it up so that the smoothing treatment can penetrate and do its job. Because the smoothing treatment has to get inside the hair to give you the benefits we promise for the length of time that we say it's going to last. And as a rule, we typically will say, depending on the treatment formula, shampoo with Clean Start, do it 2 or 3 times with coarse or resistant hair. Now we're starting to teach people, no, you should, as a rule, exactly because of what you said, Eddie, all of the things that people are taking is creating this buildup on the hair and this coating on the hair, which if you followed our instructions and you only shampooed once and all of a sudden the treatment's not working as well as it did before, that's a very likely reason. And so as a rule, we're saying shampoo twice at least as a minimum with Clean Start before every smoothing treatment, or feel free to use it before any other chemical service. It's just a good cleansing, good old-fashioned chelating shampoo. And if it's really coarse resistant hair, give it a 3rd wash. And when you're using Clean Start, this isn't like taking moisture shampoo and going, ooh, ah, and rubbing it into the scalp. You don't want to rub it into the scalp because of its alkalinity. It can inflame the pores, especially people with sensitive skin. You inflame the pores, you drip a little bit of solution on the scalp while you're applying it. It gets into the pores. Some people can get irritated with that. More importantly, we teach that when you use Clean Start, you got to really work it into the hair back towards against the grain of the cuticle and just literally work it section by section towards the scalp. So you really, it's not just la-di-da, let's get it lathered up and rinse it out. That's not good enough. So as an insurance policy, you want to do that because the last thing you want to do is only shampoo once, not knowing that this client has been taking a bunch of supplements for 6 months, have the treatment not work so well, and you got to redo it. And you don't want to do that for a $300 treatment or a $50 treatment or a $100 treatment, right? So, I think that all of this stuff ties together, right? If you're in the smoothing world and you're going to do smoothing treatments, again, that market potential sheet teaches you how to market it to every client and to offer the benefits for days, weeks, or months using a combination of the treatments or the home care. The home care by itself, however, is a whole different story. There's no cleanser or chelator here, but it doesn't mean you can't use the Clean Start to prep somebody before you're going to do another keratin service, and then send them with this on the way home. The other thing I meant to tell you before, sorry, I'm rambling a bit, but this whole retailing concept again that people get worried about, and I don't want to do it, I don't have the time, the inventory, what have you. There's a lot of affiliate programs out there now. Many distributors are starting their own where they are shipping products to clients on behalf of the salon, and the salon is earning either a distributor credit or even a straight out commission. Those are really good programs to look into because you're still allowed to retail, but without the cost and the space of stocking inventory. So that's a really, really good thing. The other thing is, you don't always, if you're going to stock inventory, which I highly recommend because clients like to leave with it, right? If they're not going to walk out the door with it, which is the ultimate inconvenience, they're more likely to go into their car, go on Amazon and order it from Amazon and have it at their house in 2 days later with free shipping if they're a Prime member. And by the way, if they do that with Keratherapy, the client is paying the same amount at Amazon that they're paying in your salon if you're selling at suggested retail. So there's no price advantage to buying online. And so to look at like an Amazon or a place like that as competition, it's only competition because it's another source of the same product at basically the same price, but clients have to wait for it. I want something now. It's why Amazon is doing sometimes delivery the same day. Sometimes I ordered something last week, I got it that night because there's a warehouse like 20 miles from our. So so this instant gratification should not be underestimated in terms of its importance to a buyer. People, when they make a commitment to buy something or they want it now. They want it now. And so if you don't have it, you're not talking about it, you've lost that advantage. The other thing is when you're pricing your services, let's take Brazilian Renewal, which is our number one selling treatment, right? When you're going to price that treatment, if you look around and everybody else in the neighborhood is charging $250 for a smoothing treatment, well, you've got a couple of choices. You can also charge $250, maybe $240, go down a little bit, or you can throw in a shampoo and conditioner in the package for maybe the first visit or first time customers, or maybe everybody that only gets a treatment on a Monday or Tuesday, or somebody that's going to do it on my slow day, or somebody who's going to do it in addition to a color. You can tie a bonus and it costs you $20 some to buy the shampoo and conditioner yourself at wholesale, right? And so now you can you can build that into the price. And if you're not comfortable doing it at $250, do it at $270. And so now you're marketing a smoothing treatment that includes a home care package to ensure you're going to get the longest result and you're going to protect that investment for a longer period of time. So there's a lot of different ways to get involved in this, right? And I think what you said is true, that a lot of people just don't want to mess with it. But I think it's really more a lot of people don't know what's the first step to take. It's like, how do I start? Okay. I mean, there's a gazillion things out there. Everybody's fighting for my business. All the salespeople who used to be coming into my salon are now calling me all the time, texting me, whatever. How do I pick the right brand? And it goes back to first, rely on your distributor that you have a good relationship with and ask them for their guidance. Look at what the brand offers in terms of, is this something that's in demand by customers? Look at the price point. Is it good, better, or best? And generally mid-range is going to move a lot better than anything else. And then look for a brand that's going to have enough products that are going to cover your demographic, the differences that you have in clients. And I think if you do those things, you don't have to put up $5,000 worth of retail, but you got to have something. And then you also, of course, all the basics, you got to have it at the back bar. So when you are shampooing somebody and they smell that wonderful smell from Color Protect shampoo and they go, ooh, what's that? Oh, that's our Color Protect shampoo. It helps your color last longer, blah, blah, blah. That's where the sales always start. That's been sales 101 since the beginning of time in our business. Since the beginning
of time. Yeah. And then you also gave us the great compliment about how as a distributorship, we like to support, and Darren and I, we constantly, we are trying to help people all the time. So we do provide we fancy ourselves, and we are very proud of the fact that we do provide a superior level of education and support to people. You guys have also been doing really awesome educational support as well too. So the thing, people getting a little bit confused sometimes when I talk to people, they're like, man, these guys have education every freaking week. I don't understand what's happening. I already took the class last week. I'm like, it's not the same class every week. It's a little bit different, right? So can you break down a little bit, because nobody believes me. They think it's the same thing over and over.
No, sure. We actually have been doing virtual education live since June. And I think we probably have done more live education than any hair product company in the world. And that's not an exaggeration. So every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday since June, we have live education with one of 4 artists. And so we've got certifications, which are treatment specific, right? And those are on Zoom, and those you have to register for. There's no cost for them, but every week it's going to be different formulas. And we do them in English, Spanish, and in French. Not every week, but we do have those available. So we do 3 languages of certifications. So that's the Zoom certifications. And that's really cool stuff. Because it's going to give you the basics of a specific treatment formula. But I actually think the more valuable education that we provide is the free segments that we put on social media, because we got 2 other education buckets. One is what we call the Smooth Operator Expert Series. And this is a series of 5 separate segments. They're all basically about a half an hour or less. And they deal with specific aspects of our smoothing story and process. So, for example, one is successful consultations. It's all about what are the right questions to ask to zero in on the right formula for every client based on their circumstances. The other one is the perfect application. I can't tell you the number of times we get calls from people saying, well, how much product should I use? And how do I know if it's too much? And how do I know if it's too little? And this is actually a very, very important stage of smoothing treatments, because if people are going to have blowout problems, or going to have fume problems, or they're going to have dull hair problems, usually that starts with using too much product up front. Or if they do a treatment and the client calls them back a week later saying it doesn't look like it did anything, that means they probably didn't use enough. So there's a real fine line and a difference. And then we've got mastering the blowouts, ironing, and finishing process, which are the most important things for longevity and for curl reduction if the treatment is designed to do that. And so these things are designed to let stylists zero in on a very specific segment of the smoothing process so that they can become literally an expert in a smoothing service and guarantee a good result every time. So those are always live. I mean, we're going to go to filmed pretty soon, because we've been doing this, like I said, since June. So we're going to shift a lot. And then we've got our newest one. Oh, also in that segment, we have new services with daily smoothing cream. So we teach everybody how to take this product and how to turn it into an in the salon service to charge revenue for. So for example, you're doing a blowout and you charge $35 a la carte for a blowout. Do a beautiful blowout, July 27th. It's 98 degrees in Chicago outside. It's 98% humidity. The client walks out the door and immediately their hair falls because of all the moisture and the humidity. So you say to that client, look, we have a premium blowout. It's only $5 more or $10 more. It's a keratin smoothing blowout. Well, what's the difference? Well, on that day, July 27th or 28th, when you walk out the door, your hair's not going to fall. In fact, it's going to be protected from the humidity for 2 or 3 days until you shampoo your hair again. So there's that. And then we also have one called New Services with Keratin Treatment Booster, which is for all our formaldehyde-free fans, which teaches them a lot of express, like literally less than a half an hour, less than 45-minute treatments they can do with our Keratin Treatment Booster, which is a professional product. The last bucket, which is our newest, is our Creative Connection series. And there we really open up, we peel back the onion about smoothing treatments, and we teach everybody how to use smoothing treatments in fashion. And so we've got a segment on short fashion hair with smoothing treatments, on medium fashion hair with smoothing treatments, on curly fashion hair using smoothing treatments, on men's fashion hair with smoothing treatments, and on short pixie cut hair with smoothing treatments. So we're teaching people how to spot apply, or how to, you get a client that walks in the door who wants a particular look, But the canvas you're dealing with right out of the gate, you're looking at their natural hair and you're going, I don't know how I'm going to do this, right? So we teach you how to take that canvas, to take that client with one of our smoothing treatments and get that hair into the proper shape and condition so that you can do the specific cut, style, and color that that client wants. And that's been one of our fastest growing segments in terms of participants. And I mean, the mannequins that our director of education, Paul Smith, who's been has really helped us create all this content. The mannequins that he uses for those segments are stunning. I mean, everybody looks at him and says, "Oh my God, how'd you get that color?" So yeah, we've always been sold on support. But again, these Smooth Operator Expert Series and our Creative Connections, these aren't about selling products. These are about teaching salons and stylists how to create new services in their salon for their existing client base to generate more revenue. Remember, this is a business. Mm-hmm. And I can't stress enough that stylists and salons really need to start looking to partners that are going to help them with business, regardless of whether or not they buy the brands. And I mean this with all sincerity. If we get a group of 50 people in a room and we're telling our story and we're doing our demo and we're focusing on all of these business-oriented things, and if 50 of them walk out the door and say, you know what, I'm amazed at what you taught me. I'm really going to implement this stuff back in my salon, but I'm going to do it with the brand I currently use, I'm okay with that. I've been doing this too long. I love the salon business. I believe that stylists and salons need more business help than anything. That's true. Because I've seen so many stylists and salons create magic with products that they've never used before. So everyone knows how to do stuff, right? You're going to have situations that you got to fix, but from a business standpoint, they really, really need the help. And that's really what we're all about. That's what we're trying to be all about.
So then to contact for the classes, it's what did you say earlier? It was info at Keratherapy?
Yeah, for classes, you can go education@keratherapy.com. You can also go to our website, www.keratherapy.com. And at the top, you'll see a banner that says Pro Stylist Virtual Education. Click here. We post a new schedule every week for the following week. We don't do it so far in advance because we have distributor desires. You know, we have private classes for groups of distributors and groups of salons or what have you. But like, you can go on our website now and see all the offerings we're doing next week. It's a pretty full schedule. And for Zoom, you have to register. But for all the social media ones, we do them on Facebook and Instagram, depending on the week. And all you got to do is follow us on one of those two platforms, be on our feed on the day and the time of the event, and you'll see when we go live. And it's live and it's interactive, and you can ask chat questions and they'll respond to the questions at the end. Cool. But it's all designed to make everybody better at what they do. And I think most importantly, it's designed to help everybody make more money.
Very, very cool. All right, that wraps up our segment for the HTB Presents Industry Insight. Let's try that one more time. Here's the Bling Presents Industry Insiders. I made up the damn name. I can't even say it right.
It's a great name.
No, but that's it for us today. That's Keratherapy. Mike Bell, our special guest. Thank you so much for your energy, spending the time with us, hanging out. We look forward to working with you again and having you on again in the future. Everybody else, you got any questions, hit us up. We'll catch you all next time. Thank you.
Thanks, Eddie.